The moment Adunni stepped onto that international runway in New York, with cameras flashing and the world watching, nobody expected what happened next. The same marks that made her classmates mock her, the same marks that made her mother cry with regret, were about to make her the most sought after model in America. But this story begins in a small Yoruba village where tradition and shame collided in ways that would change one girl's destiny forever. Adunni Olamide was born in Oke-Igbo, a village in Osun State where tradition ran as deep as the roots of the ancient Iroko trees. Her grandmother, Mama Agba, was the village's most respected traditional marker, a woman whose skilled hands had adorned generations of children with the sacred facial marks that told stories of lineage, protection, and belonging. When Adunni turned 7, it was time. In Yoruba culture, these marks weren't just decoration, they were identity. They spoke of the Olamide bloodline, warriors who had protected their people for centuries. Three straight lines on each cheek, intersected by a curved line that represented the river that blessed their ancestors. But as Mama Agba's blade carved those sacred patterns into little Adunni's face, the world outside their village was changing fast. By the time Adunni turned 10, the government had banned tribal marking. Child rights activists called it mutilation. Modern Nigerians called it backwards, and slowly, the children in neighboring villages stopped wearing these marks of honor. Adunni's father, Chief Olamide, had moved the children to Ibadan for business. The first day she walked into her new school, everything changed. Ah, see tribal marks. Is she from the village? My mother said those marks are for people who don't go to school. The children's words cut deeper than Mama Agba's blade ever did. But the cruelest moment came from when her teacher, Mrs. Adebayo, pulled her aside after class. Adunni, these marks on your face, they make you look uncivilized. In the modern world, we don't do such things. You need to understand that if you want to succeed, you must move away from all these primitive practices. That night, 9-year-old Adunni stood in front of her mother's mirror, tears streaming down her marked cheeks. Mama, why did you let them mark my face? Why didn't you protect me like other mothers protected their children? Her mother, Folashade, broke down. In trying to honor tradition, as she cursed her daughter's future, for the next 8 years, Adunni lived two lives. At home, her father proudly spoke of their heritage, but outside, she became a master of concealment. She learned to apply makeup so thick it could hide the race scars. She angled her face away from cameras. She wore her hair in styles that cast shadows across her cheeks. She became invisible in her own skin. In secondary school, when boys began to notice girls, Adunni watched from the sidelines. While her friends received love letters and Valentine's gifts, she convinced herself that no one could ever love a face marked by primitive traditions. The pain deepened when she overheard her own cousin talking to friends. I feel sorry for Adunni. She's so smart and beautiful, but those marks, no modern man will marry her. My aunt made a terrible mistake. University brought new challenges. Studying mass communication at the University of Lagos, Adunni excelled academically but remained socially withdrawn. While her classmates discussed career dreams in media and entertainment, she couldn't imagine herself on television or in magazines. Who would hire a news anchor with tribal marks? She thought. Who would put someone like me in front of a camera? But fate has a way of intervening when we least expect it. In her final year, during a photography project on modern Nigeria identity, something shifted. Her project partner, Kemi, was a bold artist who saw beauty where others saw flaws. Adunni, you've been hiding your face throughout this entire course, but for this project on identity, I need you to be my subject. Those marks aren't shame. They are art. They are history. They are power. Reluctantly, Adunni agreed. For the first time in years, she sat still as cameras captured her marked face. No makeup, no shadows, no hiding. When the photos were developed, something extraordinary happened. The marks that had caused her shame for 17 years suddenly looked majestic. The symmetry, the precision, the way they cut light and shadow, they transformed her face into a canvas of living art. The photography exhibition at the University of Lagos drew crowds, but one visitor changed everything. James Morrison was a British fashion scout in Lagos scouting for unique faces for an upcoming authentic Africa campaign. He stopped dead in front of Adunni's portrait. Who is this girl? This is exactly what we've been searching for. This is authentic African beauty. This is what the world needs to see. When Kemi contacted Adunni with the news, her first instinct was to refuse. You don't understand. These marks, they are not beautiful. They are shameful. People will laugh at me. Adunni, what if you're wrong? What if the thing you've been hiding is actually your greatest gift? Kemi countered. 3 months later, Adunni found herself on a plane to New York, her first time leaving Nigeria. The modeling agency had been clear. They wanted her exactly as she was. No makeup to hide the marks, no alterations, just authentic Adunni. But America tested her resolve immediately. Walking through JFK Airport, the stares were different but just as intense. Airport security questioned her longer. Restaurant servers looked confused. Children pointed and whispered in languages she didn't understand. The first photo shoot was for a major fashion magazine's diversity issue. As makeup artists and stylists buzzed around her, Adunni overheard conversations that shattered her newfound confidence. The makeup artist whispering, I've never worked with someone with scars like this. Are they tattoos? Can we cover them? The photographer responded hesitantly, I'm not sure this is going to work. The marks are very prominent. Adunni excused herself to the bathroom and called her grandmother, Mama Agba, now 93 and still sharp. Omolewa mi, my beautiful child. Those marks are not scars of shame. They are marks of the lioness. Your great-great-grandmother carried them into battle. Your ancestors wore them with pride when they traded with kingdoms across deserts. You think a few Oyibo people's confusion can erase centuries of power. But Mama, what if I fail? What if the world rejects me? Then you return home, child, knowing you honored your bloodline. But child, lions don't ask permission to roar. They just roar. Something shifted in Adunni that day. When she returned to the photo shoot, she was different. She looked directly into the camera. She owned her marks instead of hiding them. The photographer noticed immediately. Now, that is the look we need. That confidence, that power. Keep that energy. The photos were stunning. International Vogue featured her on their cover with the headline, The Face of Authentic Africa. But the real breakthrough came when a video of her backstory went viral. A behind-the-scenes interviewer had asked about her marks, and for the first time, Adunni spoke openly about her journey. These marks represent 500 years of my family's history. They connect me to ancestors who were kings and queens, warriors and artists. For years, I was ashamed because the world told me they were primitive. But primitive things don't survive centuries unless they carry something powerful. These marks are my superpower. They tell my story before I even speak. The video exploded across social media. Hashtag Tribal Mark Superpower began trending. Young Africans around the world share their own stories of cultural shame and reclaimed pride. But the most powerful response came from an unexpected source. Dr. Aminat Adebola, a Nigerian neurosurgeon working in London, saw Adunni's interview and broke down crying. For 30 years, she had used makeup to hide her own tribal marks, even in professional settings. That week, Dr. Adebola walked into her hospital without makeup for the first time in decades. Her colleagues' reactions surprised her. Dr. Adebola, those markings are beautiful. What do they represent? Soon, other professionals began sharing their stories. A lawyer in Toronto, a teacher in Sydney, a businesswoman in Dubai, all carrying ED marks, all inspired by Adunni's courage. But the moment that truly showed the power of Adunni's transformation came when she returned to Nigeria for a campaign shoot. Walking through Murtala Mohammed Airport in Lagos, the same Nigerians who might have once stared in pity now approached with pride. Sister, I saw you on CNN. You made me proud to be a Nigerian. My daughter, you have brought honor to our traditions. The ancestors are smiling. The shoot took her back to Oke-Igbo village, where Mama Agba waited under the same Iroko tree where this journey began. The reunion between Adunni and Mama Agba was captured by international cameras, but the conversation was purely between grandmother and granddaughter. I always knew those marks would make you special, but I never knew they would make you a voice for our people. Mama, I almost lost myself trying to erase what you gave me, but now I understand. These marks aren't just about beauty, they are about belonging. They're about remembering who we are in a world that wants us to forget. The village celebration that followed was unlike anything Oke-Igbo had ever seen. International media covered the homecoming of their daughter who had conquered the world by embracing what made her different. But Adunni's story was far from over. Using her platform, she launched the Marks of Heritage Foundation, supporting young Africans struggling with cultural identity. She partnered with UNESCO to document traditional marking practices before they disappeared forever. Fashion weeks in Paris, Milan, and London began featuring models with traditional African scarification and markings. What had once been hidden was now celebrated on the world's biggest stages. 5 years later, Adunni stood before the United Nations, addressing a cultural preservation summit. The girl who once hid her face now spoke for indigenous peoples worldwide. Our traditional practices don't need Western validation to be valuable, but when we embrace them with pride instead of shame, the world responds with respect instead of pity. My tribal marks didn't become my superpower because America accepted them. They were always my superpower. I just needed to believe it. Today, Adunni is one of the most recognizable faces in international fashion. She has graced over 50 magazine covers, worked for every major designer, and owns a successful modeling agency that specializes in celebrating authentic African beauty. But perhaps our greatest achievement is what happened in Nigerian schools. The same institutions that once made children ashamed of their cultural markers now invite Adunni to speak about cultural pride. Teachers use her story to discuss the difference between harmful practices and meaningful traditions. And in Oke-Igbo village, young girls look at their marks with new eyes, knowing that what makes them different might just be what makes them extraordinary. Adunni's mother, Folashade, keeps a scrapbook of every magazine cover, every interview, every achievement. The woman who once cried about cursing her daughter's future now knows she gave her the greatest gift possible, roots strong enough to grow anywhere. The last entry in that scrapbook is a written note from Adunni. Mama, you didn't mark my face. You marked my destiny. Every line tells a story. Every curve carries power. Every mark connects me to something bigger than myself. Thank you for making me unforgettable in a world that tries to make us all the same. Sometimes our greatest weakness are actually our hidden superpowers, waiting for the right moment to shine. Sometimes what makes us different is exactly what the world needs to see. Adunni Olamide learned that tribal marks aren't scars from the past. They are bridges to the future, and when she finally stopped running from her heritage carried her further than she had ever dreamed. In a world obsessed with conformity, authenticity becomes the ultimate rebellion, and sometimes the face you are born with is exactly the face the world needs to see. What part of your authentic self have you been hiding? What would happen if you stopped covering your marks and started celebrating them? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring African stories that remind us of our power.